In addition to the servicing channels, Windows also has to be licensed, and all operating systems, and actually all Microsoft products now, require activation. Licensing for the standard or data center server is based on the number of cores, not just the number of processors in your server. So with this, a physical core must be licensed. So every core in your server must be licensed. There must be 8 core licenses per processor, and there must be 16 core licenses per server. So there's no concept behind that. That is just Microsoft's licensing scheme. Now, normally this is not a concern for anyone unless you are involved in the actual purchasing of the server, the licensing, that gets in the budgets and all those things. Now, the client access license, or CAL, is what it's usually called. This is required for each user or device that connects to the server for any purpose. An example of this would be, if I have a file server, it runs the OS Server 2019. You have to have a license for the operating system you install on the server. Now you have your users that will connect to shared folders, we'll say. So they browse your server and they access data on your server. You need these client access licenses for the users or devices that connect to the server. So you license the operating system and you can decide how many CALs you actually need. You just need enough CALs to cover all your concurrent connections to your server, and those you just purchase. Now, the way Microsoft ensures that you actually have the correct licenses is by making you activate every copy of Windows Server and all the other Microsoft products. We have a few options to activate. So the methods for us, there is always a manual activation. Now, this is more something you would do in a home environment. If you were to go to the store and purchase a copy of Windows 10 from your local computer store, that copy is going to come with a product key. You install the operating system, you type in the product key, you click activate. That would be manual. This is a one-time activation for one, I'm going to say PC, but one computer, server, whatever it is. One-time activation for one device, really. The automatic activation options, which are the ones we truly care about. The first they have here is Key Management Services. Now, this is always called KMS. The way KMS works, you have a server on the network. This server we call a KMS host. Now, you go through any Windows server in your environment, and you can actually install this volume activation services on a local server in your environment, and that makes it a KMS host. So you handpick whatever server you want to act as your activation server. What happens now, I simply activate key management services on this. Now, you can do that through the internet or you can do that over the phone. But once you have this activated, all the computers in your environment will now connect to this and they will themselves activate. So now, all the computers you deploy connect to your KMS servers on your network, that host, and they activate. They don't have to connect to Microsoft. They don't have to connect to the internet. Some facts about KMS. It's valid for 180 days. So every 180 days. Within that time frame, you must connect to the KMS and you reactivate. Now, that's an automatic process. So it's not as if you would actually do something to connect. When you're on the network, it'll just automatically connect and it'll reactivate and just keep extending that activation. We also have a newer option, Active Directory-based activation. Now, this is very similar to KMS. The only difference is your KMS host you have here, that server would run Active Directory. So that server just will be a domain controller in your environment. All that happens when you join a client computer to your domain, that computer will activate. Now, if you're not familiar with Active Directory and domain controllers, that's something we actually configure in the next lesson. But any corporate environment you work in, you're going to have a domain, and your client computers will be joined to the domain. The main benefit of that is now administrators in your company can control the configuration and settings on all of the computers in the company. We also have multiple activation key. It's always called MAC. Now, the facts about this. When you go to Microsoft, you just purchase a certain number of activations. Let's say I have 50 servers and, I don't know, 1,000 clients, we'll say. Now, if you have 50 servers, realistically, you'd have way more than 1,000 clients. But just for this example, what Mac does, Microsoft will give me a product key for the server operating system. That product key can be activated 50 times, assuming I have purchased 50 activations. So use the same product key on all those servers. When you activate, all it does is connect back to Microsoft through the internet, and it just reduces your remaining activations for each server you activate. Does the same on the clients. You can use the same product key on all your clients. Each time you connect to the internet, to Microsoft, you activate, and it does the same on your clients. You have 1,000 activations with the product key, so your client operating systems would connect to and through the internet, they would activate, and just reduce your remaining count by 1. Now, this is a one-time activation, meaning you don't reactivate. Short of you installing the operating system, you'll never reactivate again. So some environments will actually mix, like KMS and Mac. KMS is great for machines that are routinely on the network. If you have devices that are off the network for extended amounts of time, maybe if you are in a military environment, you may have machines that are mounted in the back of trucks or something like that, and maybe they don't very often connect to your network. They would be well suited to be Mac activated instead of KMS, which requires connecting to the network and talking to your KMS host. Now, very different from that is this AVMA, Automatic Virtual Machine Activation. This is just a setting I can define on my Hyper-V host, a virtualization host. So virtual machines, anytime you build a VM, it just automatically activates the virtual machine, so I don't have to go through a manual activation. But those would be our options for the automatic activation. KMS, Active Directory based, Mac, the multiple activation key, and unique to virtual machines, the automatic VM activation.